Hello and namaste to dear students and all our valued viewers. You are welcome to the next video series of Teach Nepal. In this video, I am going to deal with the first story of grade 12 English called Neighbours. It's written by Tim Winton. Here you will get a complete summary with easy explanation and the answers of the exercises at the end of this presentation. So please watch this video till the end. Let me get started. Dear viewers, I'll present you the short summary analysis and the themes later on. So at first let me go through some of the lines from the story so that you can easily comprehend the story. Before I present you these things, I'd like to show you the key points or main things from the story. So Neighbours, written by Tim Winton. As I said before, the writer is Tim Winton. He is an Australian writer. He has written many novels and stories for adult and children. You can go through it about Tim Winton here, John Winton. So this story is about a newly married couple living in a multicultural and multilingual suburb neighborhood. Suburb means this is neither a totally city nor a village. The village that's going to develop into city or town is called suburb. It shows that cultural and linguistic barriers cannot stop people from bestowing love and compassion. You will get to know about these things at the end of this story. यो कुरा चाहिँ लास्टमा बुझिन्छ, right? Okay, so let me get started with the highlighted things here. When they first moved in, they here means the characters of the story, the main characters. They are the newly wed couples or the young couple there. They were worried of the neighborhood when they first moved in there in the city, in the town or suburb of Australia. They were worried about the neighborhood. How would the neighborhood be? They were worried about that. The street was full of European migrants. There were many European migrants in the street of the city. It made the newlyweds feel like sojourners in a foreign land. Sojourners is a vehicle that was machine that was sent to Mars by NASA. NASA ले मार्समा पठाएको चाहिँ त्यो भेहिकललाई चाहिँ सोजोर्नियर्स भनिन्छ. So the newlywed couples or the young couples in the street or in the city of Australia, the suburb of Australia, they found themselves so strange or so different there. And in their area, there lived a Macedonian family right there from England. On the right, a widow from Poland. So there were different people from different cultural background and different you see nationalities also. So the newlyweds house was small. Their house was small, but its high ceilings and pane windows gave it a feel of an elegant cottage. भनेको अलिकति cottage पनि stylish type को देखिन्थ्यो, but they had a small house there, small cottage. The neighbors, they were cautious about dog and other things. Neighbors, they were somehow the couples felt in the beginning that the neighbors were irritating. Neighbors irritating type को लागिरहेको हुन्छ. The young man and woman had lived all their lives in the expansive outer suburb where good neighbors were seldom seen and never heard. जब उनीहरू त्यहाँ चाहिँ आए, त्यहाँ आउनुभन्दा अगाडि चाहिँ they lived in such a suburb, right, where they didn't find any good neighbors. उनीहरूले चाहिँ राम्रो neighbor भेटेको थिएनन्. त्यो भएर त्यहाँ पनि whether they would find the good neighbors or not, हैन, भेटिन्छ कि भेटिन्न राम्रो neighbor भन्ने कुराहरुमा चाहिँ उनीहरूले चिन्ता गरिरहेथे. They were worrying about the things. The sound of spitting, खकारेको थुकेको sound, and washing and daybreak watering, right, came as a shock. यस्तो कुराहरु चाहिँ उनीहरूले ले चाहिँ उनीहरुलाई इरिटेट गरिरहन्थ्यो. The Macedonian family shouted, ranted, screamed, हैन. अब त्यहाँ पनि नयाँ ठाउँमा पनि the same thing they could find there. It took 6 months for the newcomers to comprehend the fact that the neighbors were not murdering. It took some time to understand the nature or the habit of the neighbors, हैन. छिमेकीको बानी व्यवहार अथवा उनीहरुको म्यानर बुझ्नको लागि चाहिँ it took some months, almost 6 months. Next, the old man, old policeman, spent most of his day hammering nails into wood, हैन. किला nail निकालिरहने चाहिँ त्यो वुडबाट, right? It was irritating sound for them. So these were the things that the neighbors did in the very beginning, right? And relations were uncomfortable for many months, as they were the newcomers in that city, in that suburb. The Macedonians raised eyebrows at the late hours and at which the neighbors rose in the morning. Newcomers, they rose in the morning. So बिस्तारै चाहिँ the neighbors, they are getting used to with the new couples, right? The young man sensed their disapproval at his staying home to write his thesis while his wife worked. The young couple, right? The husband was staying at home. He used to stay at home and write thesis for his 20th century novel, and his wife used to go to office. She used to work in a bank. Meanwhile, the young man could see the little boy the next door urinated in the street, and somehow he was spraying at the back of the cat, right? So these were some irritating things that made the young man not feel normal. Next thing we could see, in the autumn, the young couple, they planted leeks, onions, cabbage, Brussels sprouts and broad beans. उनीहरूले आफ्नो किचन गार्डनमा चाहिँ काम गरिरहेको हुन्छन्, and that there the neighbors came to the fence. उनीहरूको बारमा आएर चाहिँ they offered some advices about spacing, हैन, कति ग्यापमा रोप्ने, हिलिङ कसरी पुर्ने, mulching. So about these things they gave त्यसलाई चाहिँ कसरी प्रोटेक्ट गर्ने त्यो कुराहरूको बारेमा चाहिँ आइडिया दिइरहेको हुन्छ. हस्बेन्ड वाज somehow he resented, हैन, उसलाई त्यो कुराहरू मन परिरहेको हुँदैन, इन्टरफेरेन्स, राइट? बट somehow they followed the things or the advices given by the neighbors. Next we could see this there. The young man and woman built a hen house. कुखुराको लागि चाहिँ उनीहरूले एउटा घर बनाएको थिए, but the neighbors watched it fall down, हैन, ढल्यो. Then the police widow slide through the fence uninvited, and नबोलाइकनै उनीहरूको बारबाट छिरेर त्यहाँ आएको हुन्छ. द पुलिस विडर भनेको वाइफ बितेको मान्छेलाई चाहिँ विडर भनिन्छ. एन्ड ही रिबिल्ड इट फर देम, हैन, उसले त्यो भत्केको घरलाई फेरि बनाइदियो. दे कुड नट अन्डरस्ट्यान्ड अ वर्ड ही सेड. उसले के बोल्यो दे डिडन्ट फाइन्ड आउट बिकज द ल्याङ्ग्वेज स्पोकन बाई द पुलिस विडर वाज डिफरेन्ट देन द कपल स्पोक द ल्याङ्ग्वेज देयर, हैन. उनीहरूले केही भाषा बुझेनन्, बट ही supported or he helped them in that way. Next there, the couple found themselves smiling back at the neighbors, right? The couple found themselves smiling back. Couple smile neighborsहरूलाई चाहिँ हेरेर उनीहरू स्माइल गरिरहेको थियो. बिस्तारै gradually they are getting used to with the neighbors. They offer heads of cabbages, means the neighbors, they offer the heads of cabbages and took gift of grappa and firewood. So these were the things offered by the neighbors. The young man worked steadily at his thesis on the development of the 20th century novel. घरमा बस्यो र नोभलको लागि चाहिँ thesis अथवा main ideasहरू used to develop for it. He cooked dinners for his wife and listened to her stories of eccentric patients and hospital incompetence. All right, these things used to work there. Wife को लागि चाहिँ खानेकुराहरू बनाएर बसिरहेको हुन्थ्यो. In the street, they no longer walked with their eyes lower, right? They felt superior and proud when their parents come to visit and to cast shocked glances across the fence, right? While their parents came to visit them, right, they felt so superior. Means they didn't have any kind of embarrassment or nervousness. In the spring, the Macedonian family showed them how to slaughter and to pluck and to dress, right? Because they had kept some dogs, हैन, dogs पालेको हुन्थ्यो उनीहरूले, र तिनीहरूलाई कसरी चाहिँ किल गर्ने, हैन, कसरी चाहिँ प्लक गर्ने and dress it, right? Meanwhile, अब त्यसपछि केही समयपछि चाहिँ के हुन्छ त भन्दा young couple, they didn't plan for the pregnancy, right? But it stunned them to be made parents so early, right? The young woman, she was pregnant there. Their friends didn't have children until several years after being married, if at all. The young woman arranged for maternity leave, हैन, आफू जहाँ काम गर्थ्यो त्यहाँ चाहिँ उसले maternity leave को लागि चाहिँ arrange गरेको हुन्छ, बिदाको लागि चाहिँ. So then there we could see the young husband at times suspected that the widow was deliberately antagonizing them. जब चाहिँ पुलिस विडोहरूले, राइट, उसले आफ्नो घर पछाडि केही बनाउन लागिरहेको हुन्थ्यो, उनीहरूलाई चाहिँ अलिकति नोइजी इन्भाइरोमेन्ट क्रिएट गरेर रिस उठाउन लागेको हो कि जस्तो चाहिँ फिल हुन्थ्यो. Then when the neighbors, they found that the woman was pregnant, Italian woman began to offer names होइन, त्यहाँ चाहिँ नेबरमा भएको इटालियन वुमेनले चाहिँ उनीहरूले चाहिँ नेमहरू अफर गर्न थाले. ग्रिक वुमेन स्टप द यङ वुमन इन द स्ट्रिट, right? And some other, they need a suit, you know, a suit or clothes for the baby. Then others, they provided them wood scraps for the fire, right? Meanwhile, the young man abandoned the 21st century novel for the telephone, right? He left writing these things. Then he went to outside for the wood. He saw in the last light of the day the faces of each fence. He counted 12 faces. He was counting the fences for the fire, right? त्यहाँ उसले बाहिर चाहिँ बार लगाएको चाहिँ फेन्स काउन्ट गरिरहेको हुन्छ. There were sorry, altogether 12 fences. The Macedonian family wept and called out what sounded like their best wishes, right? Macedonian family चाहिँ केही भनेको उसले सुनिरहेको हुन्छ नबुझिदा पनि. He sounded like best wishes र होइन, best wishes भनेको हुनसक्छ हाम्रो न्युली अथवा जन्मनेवाला होइन, द बेबी द्याट इज अबाउट टु बी born, उसको लागि चाहिँ बेस्ट विसेस भनेको जस्तो उसलाई फिल हुन्छ. एट द नाइट डिपेन द यङ म्यान डोज्ड बिट्विन contradictions, sometimes walking, sometimes shouting, right? She had a hot bath. So in this way, as she was pregnant, she was being given proper care by her husband. Then after some time, the young woman gave birth to a baby, right? And later on, finally in the story, you could see that the young man heard shouting outside, होइन, जब उसले चाहिँ वुमेनले चाहिँ एउटा बेबीलाई चाहिँ जन्म दिइसकेको हुन्छ. Then he could see some people outside. He went to the back door on the Macedonian side of the fence. A small queue of berry faces looked up, cheering, and the young man began to weep, right? उसले चाहिँ बाहिर धेरैजना चाहिँ आफ्नो नेबरहरूलाई चाहिँ चियरिङ एकदम त्यो सेलिब्रेट गरिरहेको चाहिँ पाइरहेको हुन्छ. सो इट मेड हिम क्राई, होइन, उसले रुन पुग्यो. द 24th, he realized that the 20th century novel had not prepared him for this, because he had not expected such kind of cooperation and empathy from his neighbors in the beginning, but later on it came to be the true thing, right? So that he cried there. Now let me move towards the explanation and summary of this story very quickly. The characters, as we discussed, a young couple, husband, writer, wife. I told you she works in a bank, but I'm sorry, she works in a hospital there. The Macedonian family from Macedonia, southeastern Europe, they are from. A widow from Poland, the old policeman, Italian woman, right? And there are other many women. So one thing you see that the writer doesn't name the characters, but gives name from their origin in order to show their cultural differences, their identity, and highlight multiculturalism in the suburb of Australia. उनीहरूको चाहिँ डिफ्रेन्ट आइडेन्टिटी देखाउनको लागि चाहिँ नेम दिएको हुँदैन क्यारेक्टरको लागि. स्टोरीको सेटिङ रहेको छ, a new suburb in Australia where a lot of European immigrants live. And the time is, this is a contemporary, or this is a recent. Now let's have a look at the plot of the story. I mean, you plot, if you go through the plot, then you can get the complete story, right? Exposition. How does the problem rise in the story? A young couple who have moved to a new suburb where they have moved to a new suburb where a lot of European immigrants live. Rising action. The couple was worried about the adjustment in the new society. Climax. The neighbors in the suburb came to be helpful, although they had different linguistic and cultural backgrounds. Falling action. Everybody offers them help while the young woman was pregnant, and the perceptions of couple towards the neighbors changed, right? Resolution. Finally, the young couple lived happily in the new suburb as they got helps from their neighbors, right? So the story Neighbours, written by Tim Winton, deals with a young couple who have moved to a new suburb where a lot of European immigrants live. At first, they only see the strange and sometimes disgusting customs of their new neighborhood. So both the young couples and their neighbors have prejudices, but after a while they are getting used to their new surrounding, and the young couple starts liking the neighbors and notice that they aren't that bad at all, right? So first my खालको जुन perception थियो bad अथवा bad impression थियो त्यो चाहिँ बिस्तारै that got changed gradually, right? Because they got kind of help, right? Empathy and share cooperation, or that share humanity from their neighbors, right? So that everybody is satisfied with their neighbors and their life in that suburb of Australia. In the story, the author doesn't use name for the character. He describes thus the character are not defined, and the result of this is that the characters can be regarded as role models for everyone. The young couple lived in expansive outer suburbs before they moved. First, they feel like sojourners and don't talk to anyone, होइन उनीहरूलाई आफूलाई चाहिँ एकदमै स्ट्रेन्ज लाग्छ त्यहाँ, so they didn't talk to anyone there. The so-called young man stays at home and writes his thesis of the development of the 20th century novel. The young woman works in a hospital, right? त्यो कुराले नि नेबरहरूलाई चाहिँ स्ट्रेन्ज फिल गराइरहेको हुन्छ, होइन वाइफ चाहिँ काम गर्ने, हस्बेन्ड चाहिँ घरमा बसिरहने भन्ने हिसाबले पनि. After that, the whole neighbor starts to talk with them and they offer the help also, right? Everybody offers their help and they are very polite also. After the birth of their child, all the neighbors are excited and they wish their best, right? The birth is a wonder for the young man, and at the end he realizes that the 20th century had not prepared him for this, होइन मैले जे कुरा गर्छु त्यो कुराले चाहिँ मलाई अहिले यो सोसाइटीमा एडजस्ट हुनको लागि हेल्प गरिरहेको छैन भन्ने कुरा चाहिँ उसले रियलाइज गर्छ. द स्टोरी सोज द्याट इमिग्रेन्ट्स क्यान बी सिन एज सोसल इनरिचमेन्ट टु अस्ट्रेलियन सोसाइटी, राइट? अस्ट्रेलियन सोसाइटीमा चाहिँ उनीहरूले they can bring something for the shared humanity, right? Or social enrichment, so एउटा social society त्यो fraternity brotherhood त्यो खालको feel गराउन सक्छ immigrantsहरूले पनि भन्ने खालको कुराहरू. The great sense of community helps the couple to understand the intolerance, right? Prejudice and discrimination are based on ignorance. Ignorance ले गर्दा चाहिँ intolerance, prejudice र discrimination हुँदो रहेछ भन्ने खालको कुराहरू चाहिँ right त्यो देखाउन खोजेको छ. Analysis, globalization, होइन globalizationमा one can migrate from one place to another, so that they have to adjust their life there, right? Difficulties of adaptation in a new place, होइन कस्तो difficulties हुन्छ, cultural lingual difficulties, right? Complexities, linguistic and cultural factors don't hinder to the mutual cooperation and understanding in the society, होइन language ले असर गरेन, कुनै culture ले असर गर्दैन, right? We could see that there, how the Macedonian family and other people, the neighbors, they helped the young couple there. Today's society will be mixed and full of shared understanding. Today's society it's full of shared understanding, right? Neighbors perception and activities to our immigrant in Australia. Neighborsहरूले चाहिँ एकअर्कालाई कसरी हेर्छन् भन्ने खालको कुराहरू पनि देखाउन खोजेको. Themes: globalization, struggle to support multiculturalism, cooperation and empathy, prejudice, right? Discrimination, worried about new settlement. These are the main themes. Now let's have a look at the exercises. This is really important for you. So I have written you the answers. Please go through these answers here. Describe how the young couple's house looked like. The young couple's house was small, right? But its high ceiling and pane windows gave it the feel of an elegant cottage. How did the young couple identify their neighbors in the beginning of their arrival? In the beginning of their arrival, the young couple identified their neighbors as noisy, uncooperative, and strange because many things irritated them, right? So how did the neighbors help the young couple in the kitchen garden? उनीहरूको kitchen garden मा कसरी help गर्यो? The neighbors helped the young couple in the kitchen garden about spacing, healing, mulching while they were planting leeks, onions, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, and broad beans. All right. Number D, why were the people in the neighborhood surprised at the role of the young man and his wife in their family? Right. I have already told you these things because the wife used to go to the work and the husband used to stay at home there. How did the neighbors respond to the women's pregnancy? Right, they responded very positively. Even they offer something to them. Right. Number F, why did the young man begin to weep at the end of the story? He realized the importance of the neighbors, right? He realized the love, care, and empathy of the neighbors. So he came to weep, and he realized that he was not engaged in something. He was engaged in something less important than the shared humanity in the society, right? Why do you think the author did not characterize the person in the story with proper names? I have already told you the author didn't characterize the person in the story with the proper names in order to focus on the multiculturalism, their identity, right, and the cultural differences, and in order to show how the people they can play the role models in the society, right, even they are from different cultural backgrounds and linguistic backgrounds. Now, reference to the text, I have not written any answer from for this section. Let's hope that we shall do it next time. But here, as it becomes somehow long, यो क्वेसनहरू बुझेर आफूले लेख्न पनि सकिन्छ, राइट. दिस स्टोरी सोज द्याट लिङ्ग्विस्टिक एन्ड कल्चरल ब्यारियर्स डोन्ट क्रिएट एनी अब्स्ट्याकल इन ह्युमन रिलेसनसिप. जुन कुराहरू चाहिँ हामीले स्टोरीमा देख्न सक्छौँ, म्यासिडोनियन फ्यामिली, राइट, पोलिस विडर एन्ड अदर इटालियन पिपलहरूले चाहिँ त्यो यङ कपललाई गरेको हेल्प, राइट, त्यो कुराहरूलाई चाहिँ ह्युमन रिलेसनसिपमा हामी जोड्न सक्छौँ. So next is 20th century novel had not prepared for him, right, for this. So the last sentence of the story, this shows how the young man, he was not involved in the important thing, right. He was not involved in the thing that he wanted to have there, right, because he didn't understand the value of shared humanity. He didn't understand the value of the neighbors, right, the shared and mutual understanding. त्यो कुराहरू चाहिँ हामीले गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ. नम्बर सीमा, neighbors are companions for wedding procession as well as for funeral procession. भनेको छिमेकी भनेको जिउँदाको जन्ती र मर्दाको मलमी भन्छ. जस्ट लाइक द्याट हामीले चाहिँ यसलाई यो प्रभावलाई चाहिँ we have to write that if it is applicable in this story, right. Yeah, of course this is applicable in this story because neighbor they help in every circumstances, right. So that we can talk about that. So we have to talk about multiculturalism in number D, right. It is the major issue of the present world, right, because of globalization. In a society there might be different people from different culture, different lingual background, so that it has become the issue, but still people are living with shared understanding, shared humanity, right. These things we can talk. We have to do this thing on your own. Celebration of childbirth in your community, how is it done, right. Okay, so everyone, this is all about this story. How did you like the video? Please write your response in the comment section below. If you like this video and want to watch such videos, please subscribe to our channel Teach Nepal and press the notification bell icon. Thank you so much for watching the video. Stay safe and healthy. We'll meet in the next video series. Bye everyone.